All right, guys, let's get this prep spotlight going. As always, the prep spotlight is brought to you by Jacobs Insurance. Be sure to check them out if you have any questions or are looking for any new insurance deals. Head over to Jacobs Insurance. There's a lot of great people over there. But Brandon Green, ABC 12 sports director, is joining us. He's becoming a friend of the pod. Not becoming, you are a friend of the pod. Thanks for joining us, Brandon.
Yeah, I think we all like each other, right?
Absolutely. For sure. And we especially like right now. I mean, you know where we're going to start this off. The three of us are Corunna Cavaliers. They're on a roll. Obviously the big win a couple weeks ago against Goodrich, and then we don't even have to get into what happened with Clio last Friday. But the big one coming up this Saturday night, kind of different for a regular season game, at least for Corunna, a Saturday night game in Corunna at the Nick for the outright Flint Metro League Championship, right? Against Fenton. 6-1 Fenton. Their only losses against Hazlitt, so they're no slouch either. Corunna sitting at 7-0. If you were on college game day, sitting there with McAfee and Reese Davis, ABC 12 veteran also.
Yeah. Amen.
Corso, Pat, the whole crew, Dez. And you had to give your college game day preview of Corunna versus Fenton. What are you telling everyone out there that wants to know about this big game?
I think when you look at both of these teams, it's going to be a clash of two styles, because Corunna loves their offense is high flying, high motor, where Fenton is more so methodical in their approach to it, more surgical with their run game. Their pass game is good enough. They got Jahan Bond on the outside, but his touches are limited, sort of. Like, it's not like how Corunna, how the Bauer twins, like anytime Wyatt has one-on-one, they're just throwing it up. No, Fenton they're a different animal, like physical, big, like they're a high-level school. Like, this is like Fenton isn't new to this type of game.
Right.
Like they're used to being in this position. So you know that they're going to be ready, they're going to be physical. But if Corunna gets a lead, that's going to be the biggest part. Is going to be the first quarter. If they're able to get out and like their offense just gets to churning and they get a couple stops, it's like an avalanche of what they could do to you. Because it's not just the Bauer twins. They have an entire roster of just straight dudes. So that's what I would be looking most forward to, is that first quarter. Whoever wins that first quarter, I think, is really going to tell what type of game it's going to be.
Especially since, before the other guys jump in, because for the most part, we don't want to say anything, for the most part, Corunna hasn't really been tested, right? So if they all of a sudden,
they haven't. Flat out, they haven't.
Right. If they find themselves down 10, down 14 after one, how are they going to respond? Is that kind of like what you're alluding to a little bit?
Yeah, because we thought that it was going to happen against Goodrich, but Goodrich this year, unlike last year, they don't, like, from what I've seen, they don't jump on you. From the two games that I went to, I seen them play Lake Fenton, and then this past Friday, them playing Brandon. The game was close until the third quarter, and then Goodrich just flipped a switch.
Right.
They couldn't do that against Corunna. Once they got down, they couldn't flip that switch. So I'm interested to see Corunna against a team that has that mentality of, like, we're going to put you down and we're going to drag you out to the deep end and see if you can swim. So because that's what the playoffs is. So I think this is a perfect test to see where they're at and where they're going to stack up.
The thing when I think of Corunna this year, outside of maybe the football field, is I think of how great of crowds they've had, especially the student section in that Goodrich game, their first home game of the year. For this community, I feel like maybe we don't always have the best talent in this Flint, mid-Michigan area, but I feel like the community always comes out and supports the teams. For all the games you've been to this year, what's been maybe the best crowd you've seen in the best student section?
Ooh, because we do the fan zone every Friday.
Right.
Oh my goodness. There's been too many. Lapeer, when they played Heritage, was ridiculous.
Yeah.
They did like a neon theme. And one time when they scored, they brought out like a plank, right? Like just cardboard. And this dude, he looked like Boris Kojo. He just got up there and started doing like all these push-ups and stuff. It's like, this is different. Goodrich crowd last week was really good. I think every crowd last week was good because they stood out in the rain. It was cold. It was windy.
Yeah.
Chesaning always
Yeah.
is top tier.
They do.
Top tier. I really like Fenton this year, of course. Davison, Blanc. I don't think I could just pick one, but if I had to, that Lapeer crowd, I was like, this is different. I've never seen this before. I've seen the cheerleaders doing push-ups, but never like a staff member or a parent like hyping up the student section doing push-ups. I've never seen.
You know, you and Joseph do a great job over there at ABC 12, especially for your highlight show. Just a kind of an inside baseball media type of question. You know, it's usually rare when you get people that call out, you know, and compliment you, but there's plenty of people that have a problem with you on both sides of the coin. You know, do you get a good response from people?
I would say, I think you got to take the good with the bad. Like it's always going to be, you're not going to please everybody. And that's one of the biggest things I figured out here. So we just try to stay true to what we do. Like our coverage isn't going to dictate towards a parent mad because their kid isn't made a touchdown, but they weren't in the highlight.
Right.
We got so many schools to get to that we can't be everywhere. We try to be there for those big moments. But if we're there for a big moment, we're going to do it up the biggest and the best that we can. Right. So that's our approach. But it is a good bag. I say it's more good than bad. You always have those days where people want to call or they want to email, but the good always outweighs the bad, especially in person.
For sure.
One of your stories I loved, and it's outside of football. I'm sure we'll come back to football. But it was on Lucas Power, who was a golfer, actually. Who ended up kind of living my dream, high school golfer, ended up going to play at Pebble Beach. Can you maybe share with some of our listeners this story and where they can find the full story as well?
So you can find the full story on abc12.com. And for Lucas, he's a senior at Kersley. He's part of the First Tee program here in mid-Michigan. So their initiative is to like give kids a chance to basically play golf and to better themselves, not only through golf, but through education opportunities and everything else. But Lucas was special because his story is tremendous. Because he started playing golf at like 2 years old, like everybody else, in the backyard with a putter and everything. But he had a coach that saw something in him so much that he paid for like his club fees, his first set of clubs, put him in First Tee, put him through coaching to get Lucas to this point where through First Tee he had an opportunity to write a bunch of papers. I think it was like 5 essays or something he had to write, and he was chosen to represent Michigan and to go down to Pebble Beach and play. And when you talk to Lucas, he's like the most humble kid ever. Like, I know if I was going to Pebble Beach, I would be like, yeah, I'm about to show everybody up, VJ who, like, like, I know I would be doing it up. But for him, he was more concerned, like, he gets to play with his idols and people that he grew up watching on the TV. And you love stories like that. You love stories where a kid gets to live out their dream. Because for me, I live out my dream every day by just getting paid to talk about sports.
Right.
That was the ultimate dream. So to see somebody achieve their dream is like a pinch yourself moment. And it's always good because it wasn't just Lucas that was good. It was everybody in the First Tee program. Because that story took a while to set up because I was dealing with some deaths in the family. We were supposed to do it like a month before. We had to reschedule and everything. So they were really great. And I love that. They were really understanding.
Yeah.
That's why we were able to put out the story that we did.
That's one of the coolest things. And we've talked about local news or local news coverage, whether on TV or even still newspaper type stuff. You always sometimes you get those gem stories that when you find it or you hear about it, you just know it's going to, transcend or it's going to connect with the whole community and stuff. And it definitely sounds like that's one of them right there. And you know that in the next few weeks, the next month or so, some of that stuff is going to happen. Some schools are going to make a run to Ford Field or at least win a district championship and maybe a region. And it's going to be those same kind of memories. We obviously talked about Corunna Fenton quite a bit, but give us, 3 or 4 other teams that you think right now they're putting themselves in position to make a run to Ford Field? Is Goodrich still there, even though, the Corunna game happened? Or are there, Davison obviously is always, one of those teams in the Flint area. Any other teams that you guys are like, this is a team to look out for?
So we actually have a couple games coming up that I'm really interested in. We got this Friday, Blanc against Davison.
Okay.
Because Davison, they seem like a juggernaut.
Yeah.
They have run through everybody they were supposed to. And it was that De La Salle game. I think, because, when teams peak or whatever the coaches say, for Davison, I think that was more so confidence, because I was there that first night that they played De La Salle over there at Atwood. It was not what Joseph went to the next day.
Right.
It was more so like they were trying to figure it out. AJ Hill just coming back from injury, how you work him back in. Sawyer Glennie, how much of the offense can they give him? But then I went to their game against Carmen Ainsworth this past Friday, and they look like Davison of old, like just throwing the ball all around the lot, running game working good. Then they got these linebackers that will hit you. So I'm interested to see them against Blanc, especially in that environment, because Blanc has a new stadium. Every game I go to, it seems like the crowd gets bigger and bigger, and it gets harder to park. Yeah. So I can't wait for this Friday. Also, Gladwin against Frankenmuth.
Oh, man.
Last game of the season, rematch from the state championship game when Gladwin kicked the field goal to win it. I think that one's going to be telling, especially for that D5 division, especially where Frankenmuth is at. Because Frankenmuth just been rolling. They had that hiccup against Goodrich over there at Michigan State to start the season. But other than that, they've been just normal Frankenmuth. Yeah. So I'm interested to see that game.
That's a heck of a regular season matchup.
And
I didn't realize that was the final game of the regular season for those teams.
Yeah, we're going to be there. If we gotta go to Gladwin, we're gonna be in Gladwin for that one. That hour 45 is gonna be But also, I think Chesaning, because you always have these teams, just like Durand last year.
Yep.
It's like the same story. Chesaning is having their best season since 2001, which is also when they won the state championship.
Right.
Yep. So it seems like they're coming back full circle. But yeah, like Corunna and Chesaning, we got a bunch of teams that can do something in the playoffs. Even our teams with a couple losses, like Heritage or Lapeer, Blanc. I think a team that people really have to look out for is Hamity, because they're just flying under the radar right now. And it seems like they're getting better week by week. And what Gary Lee is preaching to those boys over there, and has the way that they're playing. I know last year they lost to Frankenmuth, right? Yeah. We didn't lose to Frankenmuth. But this year it's that confidence of just coming back and knowing that if we do these little things, then we could get there. And that's what, when I went to their fall camp, that's all Gary Lee was preaching. Like, we just have to do the little things, like those little things, that little block, that little pass route, that little run block is what's going to separate the champions. So I can't wait. Hopefully, I want Hamity to make a run, because it's so cool to see like someone from Flint, and see the Flint community get behind a team that you just love to see that.
Yep.
One of the speaking of Flint, you've had the opportunity to hear Monty Morrice talk a couple times about him coming back to Detroit, and obviously he's been huge in the Flint community his whole life. What's it been like having him back, kind of around and in the area? What have you noticed from people, and what have you heard about him?
Flint is a special city because they get behind their athletes like no other. I don't know if you guys had the chance to get out to the JaVale McKee program and to see the love that JaVale got when Miles came back, that he got. It's like it's different. You can't really explain it. And for Monte, it's in a whole, like, you put that one, like JaVale and Miles, like in a box, because they're not here during the regular season.
Right.
Monte is here. Like, he was at Beecher's game the other night. Yeah. Like, he's constantly back here. Like, his mom doesn't live that far away, so he's constantly back in the Flint area, whether he was doing his camp or just even up at Beecher, just on a random day. So, because you can't put into words how much that does for kids in the community. Because Beecher, we all know what they are in basketball. It's like they turn these dudes out. But for Monte to keep coming back, it's different.
Yeah.
Him at media day, he couldn't stop smiling because he had on the Pistons jersey and the colors, and he is a Piston. This is what he dreamed about. Because I know everyone's seen. I had to go back and watch Bucktown, that slow, because it was that good and it was that compelling that this looks like an average dude. He's not that tall. Me and Monte, we look eye to eye. But then you see like Jalen Duren, he's like, oh yeah. Right. But he's just somebody who plays the right way and he does the right things at the right time.
Yep.
And that's what Pistons need. That's what any basketball team needs.
Right.
Yep.
And when I did the story about him coming home, I sat down, me and Mike Williams, Davison's head coach, longtime Beecher head coach.
Oh, yeah.
We sat down for like an hour and a half just talking. He took me through like all the stories about when Monte was in like 4th grade. He said that's an NBA player. And everyone called him crazy. Or when Monte first got to high school and he wanted to put the ball in his hands. Or Monte going to college, having to just grind it out over there at Iowa State. Like he wasn't this dude, the man. He had to work for it. Then in the NBA, he had to go to G League. He had to work for it. So he is Flint, because Flint, you're hard nosed and you work for everything that you get. That's the mantra of the city.
Yeah.
So for him to make it, now he's in the Motor City. He's right down 75.
Right.
That's
I
sweet.
can't wait for the Pistons' first home game. I was looking it up. I think it's October 28th. I will be there. I have to see this.
Yeah, I look for the Pistons to definitely make a move up if they stay healthy. You know, I think they got a good young core and a good coach. And sidebar, I had a chance to broadcast Morrice's last high school game at the Breslin, and he was sick. It was like a Michael Jordan thing, you know, and Langsburg Wolfpack almost got him. It was a 2-point game. The Wolfpack had the ball at the end, but he was a great player for sure. Well, before we let you out of here, Brandon, this is the prep spotlight, but since we talked about the Pistons and I set it up in our open, wow, what a weekend for our area. I mean, you know, we love Corunna. There's no doubt about it, but you look at the Michigan Wolverines, #2, and you look at the Detroit Lions, baby. Talk a little bit about those two programs and what they mean to our state and your coverage.
It's an overload right now. Because when you think about everything that's going on, you want to get to everything. Like we're going to be at Michigan, Indiana this weekend, but also what CMU is doing up there in Mount Pleasant shouldn't be understated. They went to Notre Dame. They were in the game against Notre Dame. They're in the game against Michigan State. Like this team is serious. So the chips are good. Wolverines are good. The Lions are, man.
Wow.
What?
We don't want to get ahead of ourselves with the Lions, but
Green Bay is it's something I haven't seen before, because I feel that sometimes I'm the bad luck charm, because I went to 2 Lions games, right?
Yeah.
I went to the Justin Tucker field goal game, like 67. I was there for that one. And then I was at the Seahawks game this season. Every other game they did good. So maybe it's just me. Maybe I just got to stop going to the game.
Yeah, send Joseph out to those games, will you?
But it's just what Dan Campbell preaches is what I like. Just that hard nose, do your job, be one with the team, and they all buy in. Everybody. It doesn't matter what job you're doing. And then when you have Ben Johnson calling up plays for the center to hike it between Darren's golf legs, like it's
amazing.
It's stuff you don't even think about or see. You know you're doing something right when Kyle Shanahan and them over there in San Francisco are stealing your plays and running it that same night.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we enjoy your coverage over there at ABC 12. Obviously, our listeners can tune in every night, including the Friday night show you have. But tell our listeners the best spot to catch up with you on the socials.
So you could see me at B Green. Yep, B Green Reports on every social media platform, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And the ABC 12 team is getting bigger. I'll just throw that out there.
Oh, love it.
We are adding a 3rd person. We'll make that formal announcement next Monday, but we can't wait. We're going to hit the ground running for the rest of football and the start of basketball season.
Well, looking forward to it for sure.
It's not Ted, is it? It's not Ted.
I was going to say you, Jared. You know, young guy.
No, Ted. You were just telling us last week how you kind of you miss it. So hey, I wouldn't be surprised if you might be the special guest.
Stay tuned. Tuned in Monday night.
Yeah.
All right, Brandon. Hey, we appreciate the time, buddy.
No problem. Thank you all.
All right, we'll see you later.
Man.
Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding areas since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcast, we've had 3 generations: Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and myself, Noah Jacobs, serving our community with offices in Waterford and Owasso on M21, just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by our team. Jacobs Insurance is a proud supporter of our local schools and the proud sponsor of the Prep Spotlight. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's our family working together to protect yours. That's the Jacobs way.
Oh, great stuff again, as always, from Brandon Green. And it's funny, Jared, that you jumped in there about me being maybe the new hire. I immediately thought of you and was going to add into this portion. But yeah, they do a great job over there, and they cover all the area teams, and they're doing a great job covering the Corunna Cavaliers. I mean, you set it up a little bit, Matt. 57-0 over Clio. It was a game where, you know, the starters played, but most of the backups got most of the reps. Parker Isham, not really a backup, but he got primarily the most carries, 104 yards, a couple touchdowns. Caden Mitten came in late in the game, had a real solid running game, 2 touchdowns. Bryce Eddington, another solid game defensively, a 35-yard pick six. And, you know, I was just looking at the season stats on Wyatt Bauer. 60 of 76 in the air, 1,427 yards, 18 touchdowns, another 676 on the ground with 12 touchdowns. So he's got 30 TDs on the season. Not bad.
Pretty good.
Not bad, and especially in limited duty. You know, we didn't even get into the fact that, I mean, I don't want to jinx it. I'm going to knock on wood, but I have never heard of a team, especially in our area, that has had a running clock all 7 games. And, you know,
7 games.
So every game, a running clock. It's just amazing.
Yeah,
you have
I mean,
to
if they get
think-
through, this week, I mean, they're going to go the whole regular season with a running clock. I mean, it's a tough task going against a bigger school like Fenton, which can be a really fun matchup on Saturday night. But yeah, it's impressive. They haven't. It's high school. You know, the emotions they're going high, they're going low. It's impressive how they've stayed even keel this whole year.
Right.
That's unbelievable in high school.
It really is.
And we'll talk about it a little bit more when we get into Michigan, but it reminds me of Michigan where, you know, for a couple weeks, if the opponents are maybe a little lesser or down, you can kind of use that, I guess, quote unquote excuse. But when you get into, like, for Michigan, 6 games, Corunna, 7 games, mid-season, you're getting towards the end of the regular season and your starters still aren't playing in the fourth quarter. You're having running clocks. It's not just like, you know, an outlier. You're doing this every single week. Like you said, Jared, not having that one letdown week where, you know, maybe you have a couple turnovers or something like that. I mean, for Coach Herrick, we talked to him last week, obviously, and then credit the players, of course, to stay engaged and, like, you know, stay in the moment, I guess, and not have one of those letdowns. It's insanely impressive. And I'm going to be, for sure, this might be the week, Ted, if you get the technical stuff figured out. This might be the week I sign up for NFHS.
Well, we're going to do.
I'll be listening either way, whether it's on the Castle but if you get that NFHS thing figured out, I might sign up and watch this Saturday night.
I'll let you know for sure. We're going to test it probably Thursday. One thing I can assure you, and I don't think the Castle is going to carry the game Saturday night, but
they were. Okay.
We'll have a couple of options. You know, we'll have the NFHS video with the audio. If that doesn't work, or even if it does work, I think I'm going to, again, do the Facebook Live. And it's just, I'm going to call it Facebook Live radio. I mean, you know, the video quality is not zoomed in, but at least you get the audio. So, and that's free. So anybody that wants to listen in will have access to the Cavaliers on Saturday night.
It's a good camera quality. And I mean, compared to think about just 6 years ago when I was in high school, and it's like you're watching the film back. It's like, looks like you're watching it on like a 1975 VHS tape. So technology has come a long way. That's for sure. I have a question for you, Ted. Do you think this is the only time in Corunna's history that they've been the only game going on? I mean, Saturday night, they got to be the only game in the state, right?
No, I thought I saw the D zone, you know, that site that covers high school sports. I thought they said there were some other Saturday games.
Yeah, like afternoon games.
I don't know.
No,
They
I
might
don't
have
think
been-
there's any other Saturday night. And if I'm a Corunna, I mean, this is what I would love if I'm on that Corunna team, or if I'm on Fenton and I'm playing in this game. You know, there's going to be other schools. There's going to be other coaches coming to scout you. They're going to see what you're all about, and you can definitely send a big time message going into the rest of the season if you lay it on thick on Saturday night. So
well, Corunna's got to stay focused. They got to go after the business on this Saturday night, and then we'll see what happens the rest of the way. Is it? One final question on the Cavaliers: is it any concern? And it probably is a little bit. They haven't been tested at all. I mean, you want to get tested before the playoffs, don't you?
It's almost like a yes or no, because it's almost like if you're not being tested, maybe you're just that good.
Exactly,
and you're just steamrolling teams.
That's true.
Right, kind of like what we talked about with Brandon. If all of a sudden Fenton maybe jumps out to a lead, is that going to make them change Corunna? Is that going to make Corunna change their offense? Are they going to start pressing, or something like that? So yeah, sure, you need some adversity for sure. But I mean, if you're clicking on all cylinders like you are right now, I mean, no.
Yeah,
no,
my
no
guess
sweat.
is from watching them, even if they get down a score, they're not going to miss a beat. They're just going to reload and go after it. I really think so.
One thing to mention, I mean, I was texting you guys earlier. I was looking up some stats and stuff. Obviously, Wyatt Bauer, Corunna's quarterback, getting a lot of the accolades. Fenton has a pretty good quarterback themselves, right?
They
so
do.
Is it going to come down to like a quarterback duo who has the bigger day? Is that kind of what you think is how it's going to play out?
Kind of looking at it that way right now, but we'll see. I'm going to do a little further research and delve in when I get back home.
Right.
in other words, got a little bit of research to do before we can report back on that answer.
I mean, Matt's already given me my best research on that game, so
Yeah.
I just
I was curious. Yeah, I looked up their quarterback. Let me look at my notes real quick. Their quarterback Noah Dotson has honestly very similar statistics to
right.
So
A little
Get the
bigger
pen and paper
school,
out,
too.
Ted. Start writing this down.
Oh, I've
Get
got
ready.
it. I got a text. Matt's my man.
All right.
the one lost against Hazlitt too.
Right.
The one loss against Hazlitt, but the one big thing, if you look up the numbers, if you're just looking at tail of the tape type of stuff, Fenton's defense gives up like 24 points per game versus Corunna's 5.
Right.
Again, they're playing different opponents, so I don't know how much you can look into that, but I wonder, which one's going to play out.
And the Cavaliers do have the home field, which can be big. It can be big, definitely.
Especially Saturday night.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's whip through some of the other key games. Chesaning continues to roll 29-12 over Durand. Braden Florian, 120 yards, a couple touchdowns. The team that really doesn't get talked about, and I was going to talk about it with Brandon a little bit, kind of under the radar, the new Lothrop Hornets. They haven't had any massive victories, but they are 6-1. And we know about their program in Clint Galvis, and they picked up a win over Ovid Elsie. The game heard on the Castle, 14-13, a late touchdown won it for the 6-1 Hornets. So don't count them out there in Division 8.
They're that team, they're almost like, at this point, they're almost like in Alabama. Everyone is saying Nick Saban's done, the dynasty is over. But if Alabama somehow sneaks into the college football playoff, no one wants to see Alabama. It's kind of like New Lothrop. Even if New Lothrop kind of gets into the playoffs, like you said, under the radar, no one wants to play New Lothrop in the playoffs. You kidding me?
No, I wouldn't.
Is there a small part of you that is irritated that every game this year that the Castle has done has been a great game, whereas like you've been gone through years of blowout after blowout? I mean, there is kind of magical in the air with this radio season.
I never really thought about it too much, but you're right. It doesn't make me upset. It makes me actually kind of glad, that Casey gets to start off with this great schedule. He's mentioned it a couple different times. And there have been some great matchups for sure. But no, it doesn't bother me, Jared. I've done enough games.
Oh, yeah.
Enough overall. A couple other scores. Perry down Stockbridge, 14-13. You're following the Ramblers there. Matt, they might make the playoffs for the first time other than the COVID year. First time ever in program history, which looks like they're on their way to do it.
First time ever. And I have 2 nephews playing on the team. One's upperclassman, so he's getting reps on offense and defense, Brady. But first time since 92-93 that they could have a 6-win season and make the playoffs ever. I mean, I know Perry maybe isn't like a storied program in the area, but that's a pretty cool story. If Perry is able to get the 6-7 wins, and make the playoffs. I was going to ask you, Ted, though. I know we're starting to
Yeah.
go long on the prep spotlight here, but so it would be their first time since 92, 93 getting to that 6-win mark. When did the 6-win automatic playoff berth thing come into play? Because was it like around then? Because they won 6 games, they won 7 games.
80s, right? Early 80s.
No,
Or was there still like a point system? Because they got to those 6-7 wins and didn't make the playoffs.
it was
in the early 90s.
totally point system. I don't think they went to the 6-win thing until the longest it could have been was like the late 90s. But I'm thinking even in right around your time.
I was thinking of when the playoffs were created.
No, but it was all points. It was all points then. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, and got to send a shout out to Timmy Hall, led the defense with 13 tackles. Morrice, they pulled a big upset. They've kind of been up and down this year, but they knocked off number 4 Mount Pleasant Sacred Heart 44-13 in 8-man football. Wyatt Cartier had 264 yards and 4 touchdowns. And it's okay. We're going a little long in this segment because Jacobs Insurance Agency will be glad we're talking high school sports, and they'll be happy I brought up a cross-country story. Corunna's Peyton Chandler, top 10 finisher at the DeWitt Invitational. And in soccer, Chesaning has repeated as MMAC champions with a 7-1 win over Lakeville. They improved to 16-1 overall. So in both sides of the football, they're doing very well over there in Cheese Rock, man.
Gotta love it. There's some good area sports going on right now, man.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll be back here on 3 Point Podcast, and we'll take a look at some other football in our area. I'm thinking maybe some Michigan, maybe some Detroit Lions. We'll be back right after this.
Rivals Tap House and Grill is the area's go-to spot for the best in food and drink. Meet up with your friends and catch your favorite sporting events on over 20 high-def flat-screen TVs.
And our 120-inch projection screen.
Rivals can handle your large or small parties and is an awesome spot to put on your fundraising events. Weekly food and drink specials including gourmet burgers, wings, pizza, homemade soup, and salads. Rivals also stocks a large selection of craft and domestic brews. Rivals Tap House and Grill, the official gathering spot of 3 Point Podcast, located on the corner of Shiawassee and M21 in Corunna.